The world is changing extremely fast right now, in ways that can feel both exciting and overwhelming. So, how do we find balance in all of this? I'm Stephanie von Bismarck, activist, author, and digital educator. Welcome to my podcast, where each week I sit down with some of the world's best thinkers, trailblazers, and extraordinary people to find ways to help us all thrive and answer the big question, how do we manage? In this episode, we're talking about the C word, cancer. Why? Because if it hasn't already impacted your life in some way, there is pretty much no doubt it will. In the UK, it's estimated 1 in 2 of us will now get cancer within our lifetime. Globally, it's 1 in 5, with a predicted 20 million new cases in the US this year alone. But so often we hear about cancer in numbers and treatments and research. But what we don't hear is what it's like living life after treatment, physically and mentally, both for those who've had the disease and for the loved ones. My guest is someone who's making that conversation heard. Dr. Liz O'Riordan has lived both sides of the breast cancer journey, first as a consultant surgeon and then as a patient herself. After being diagnosed with breast cancer while treating patients with the very same disease, she was forced to leave surgery behind, but not her mission to help others. She's since become a best-selling author, a TEDx speaker, a podcast host, and a leading voice in changing the conversation around cancer care, tackling everything from menopause and mental health to sex and self-worth. In this conversation, we talk about loss, resilience, and reinvention, and what it really means to thrive after trauma. Liz is a powerhouse of empathy, unflinchingly honest and deeply human, and I was so grateful to share this with her. Liz, thank you so much for joining me here today. I'm really grateful that you took your time.
Oh, thanks for having me. I can't wait to chat.
Let's start a little bit of going back in your life before your diagnosis. What were you up to?
I was a consultant breast surgeon. I'd spent 20 years training to become a doctor and a surgeon, and I love breast surgery. The relationships you develop with the women that you look after and the dressmaking, the couture skills that you have of recreating breasts and nipples, it was incredible. I was 40, it was 2015, and I came out the shower one day and I noticed a cyst, not what I thought was a cyst, just a lump in my left breast in the cleavage. And I'd had a couple of cysts before. I never checked my breasts, I should say that. I was really naughty, but I never thought breast cancer would happen to me. And I'd had a normal mammogram 9 months before, so I wasn't worried. But I went to get it checked out. The mammogram was normal, but on the ultrasound, they saw a 2.5 centimetre cancer. And in that moment, it was like a light bulb switched off because I didn't need to wait for the biopsy. I did ultrasounds myself in clinic. I knew I'd need chemo. I had a good chance of my odds of being alive in 10 years. And my surgeon, who was a mentor and a trainer and a friend, came in and said, "Who do you want to treat you? Because I'm not sure I can." All of that happened before we did the biopsy because we both knew.
Was it an advantage or a disadvantage that you knew so much about it?
I think it was a disadvantage.
Really? How so?
Yeah, I know too much. I've looked after women younger than me who've died of breast cancer, and I can't unsee that knowledge. And I knew how bad my odds were, but my parents and my husband didn't need to know that. So it was almost, who do I talk to about everything I have? Plus, it's really hard looking after doctors who are patients. We generally make terrible patients because we think we know what we're doing. We like to be in control. No one knows what to say. And it was really hard finding my way to let go, to not tell my surgeon what stitches to use and just trust to be a patient.
Yeah, I was just about to ask how difficult that was to be eventually, that doctor treat you to be treated by people you knew?
Yes, it was really hard. I know every breast surgeon in the UK by name or reputation. Where do you go? And how do you decide what's a good surgeon? Do you pick like a centre of excellence? So in the UK, we have the Royal Marsden. You may pick MIT in the States. Do you pick someone who puts up pretty pictures at conferences? Or do you pick someone with a good bedside manner? I stuck with her because my husband's a surgeon. It meant we could both go to appointments. If anything happened, it was local. but we had to stop being friends. And I saw her in a coffee shop about half an hour after she told me I had cancer, and she blanked me because she had to. But that was really, really hard. And because I'd worked in that unit as a breast surgeon myself, everyone was crying. The theatre staff were like, oh my goodness, it's one of our own. People are kind of walking on eggshells around you because they just don't know what to say.
No, I absolutely can imagine. I mean, it must have been somehow surreal to move from doctor to patient, right?
Yeah.
So how did that shift in yourself also change the approach towards your patients?
Surreal is the word. I thought I knew everything there was to know about breast cancer, and I found out how little I knew. So I would tell women they needed chemo, and I may not see them again. I thought you lost the hair on your head. I didn't realize you lost all your body hair. I
Oh,
didn't realize how sick or how tired or how constipated you could be, or how hard it was to make a decision about having a reconstruction. And no one talked about how to cope with the side effects of the menopause when you can't have HRT, or how to get your sex life back when you have no libido. And I went back to work for about 6 months before I had my first recurrence. And I found that really hard because I was still a patient. And when I told someone they had cancer, I wanted to give them a hug and say, yes, this is blooming awful, and I know how bad it is, and I'm going to get you through it. But I have to be positive, and I have to be the bad guy to give them bad news. I can't be their friend. And I was scared to operate because I knew that I might hurt them. And it was really hard to get in that frame of mind where I'm just a doctor. But what I could do was ask my breast care nurses to talk about sex and the menopause and how to help them cope, because it wasn't my job to, but it was really, really hard.
and even from today's perspective, what are the gaps, in that patients are was still left out with just the diagnosis? What were they in your case?
So I think from a diagnosis point of view and actually deciding what treatment to have, breast cancer is relatively clear cut. There are so many trials and so much evidence. You may be deciding, do you have all your breasts removed or a lumpectomy? But generally, everyone in the UK would recommend the same treatment based on all the data we have. I think where the problem comes is you can't think rationally about any of this because you've got breast cancer. And it's hard making a decision about how you feel about your breasts because at the time I had a reconstruction for vanity. I couldn't imagine not wearing low-cut clothes. Now I wish I'd gone flat with 10 years of hindsight. I think the gaps come when we say goodbye to patients. The treatment's finished. We'll see you in a year. We'll see you in 5 years. And you're left to yourself with every day wondering, is this the day it comes back? Or what do I eat? Or what do I exercise? Or how do I cope with the side effects? And I think surgeons and oncologists aren't always aware of what their patients are going through. And I think that's where the problem is. We give them the best that medical science has to offer, but their quality of life isn't great. And I think we need to do more about talking about the physical health and mental health, helping women live and thrive and survive again.
Why would you say in hindsight that you would have rather gone flat?
2 reasons. One, at the time it was vanity. I like wearing V-neck dresses. And when you're small chested, if you want to wear a prosthetic, you need a full cut bra, which would show in a V-neck top.
Yeah.
And because I'm slim, I knew that if I went flat, I was never going to grow enough of a tummy to recreate a breast. So it was my only option to have a reconstruction at the time.
Yeah.
I couldn't imagine being flat. But I had to go flat when my cancer came back 3 years later. And at the time, and that was a bad year. I wouldn't look at myself below the neck down. I hated my scar. But now I don't care. I now know that having breasts doesn't make me a woman and doesn't define me. Because when you lose your hair and your eyelashes and your sex hormones and your libido and your breasts and your sexy underwear, it's hard to flirt. It's hard to feel feminine. You kind of feel you've lost everything. And I now know in time that that's still inside me. And it doesn't matter if I'm asymmetric because I'm still me.
Of course. And ultimately, I know that you then also lost your job as a surgeon. What happened there?
So I'd gone back to work for about a year and I'd had a nodule of scar tissue on my chest wall. I'd been having physiotherapy on it, but it turned out that that was actually a local recurrence. So I had to have my implant removed, more surgery, more radiotherapy. And the side effects of all that trauma to my chest wall and my shoulder meant that my shoulder was weak. I couldn't lift it up above my head. I couldn't get my arm into the positions I needed to do breast reconstructive surgery. And psychologically, because I was so much closer to getting incurable disease, I couldn't cope with dealing with women who had incurable disease. So at 43, I took ill health retirement. And I was suddenly sat at home thinking, I have no life. I have no hobbies. I don't know what to do. I've lost my status, my independence. That was really, really hard because I didn't retire thinking, hey, let's throw a party. Thank you. I left work one day. I got the results of my cancer and I never went back.
How did you find your way out? How did you emotionally cope with that?
I spent 6 months in a very, very dark place thinking, what do I do? Because my purpose in life was to help people and suddenly I couldn't. And I live in the middle of the countryside. Chemo made me infertile, so I don't have children. My husband got mad because I would talk to him for hours when he came home just for something to do. But I started writing a blog during chemotherapy and that blog became a book, The Complete Guide to Breast Cancer. Yeah. And then I started doing videos on Instagram to explain breast cancer treatment and found there's a niche here. I can help healthcare professionals understand what it's like. And I don't exaggerate. I'm not extreme at slash poison burn. I was just trying to be honest. And I can help patients and relatives understand as well what treatment is like, what works and what doesn't. And I'm busier now than I ever was. That's crazy.
Fantastic.
It's crazy. I mean, I do all of it for free, but I like my latest book, The Cancer Roadmap. There is so much misinformation online. But I found by writing and by talking, I've done a TEDx talk in Stuttgart, I'm coming to America to talk in May, by sharing my experiences and hoping I can change medical care for the better, that gives me a reason to get out of bed in the morning.
That is so fantastic. You also talk about elephants in the room. What are they, and what is one of those elephants that you wish wasn't ignored all the time?
I think there are two big ones, and one is sex and one is death.
Okay.
So I think almost every person that's with any illness, their sexual life is affected. And with breast cancer, it's huge. And it's not just your body image, how you feel. Do you want your partner to touch you? Can you actually look at your scars? But when you're on hormone blockers and you have no libido, no estrogen, and your partner doesn't know why you're not getting physically turned on or why you never want to have sex, and what do you do and how do you reconnect? 70% of my patients went through this and I never helped them. I was never told what to do as a doctor. And I now spend a lot of time talking about how to try and get your sex life back, how to connect, because it's a basic human need. And I think doctors need to get better about talking about how treatments will affect their sex life and where to go for help. I think it's crucial. But I think the big thing in the UK is we don't talk about dying. When you think of, it must be huge in the States, the preparation people have to give birth. The plans and the courses and the classes and the lessons, but everybody dies. And so few people have an advanced care plan or write the wills is something we're scared of. And I think that fear of recurrence, the fear of cancer coming back, is partly because we don't talk about death and dying.
No, it's something we, especially the Western cultures, have some sort of pushed away. Namely, although there's nothing more certain to life than death.
Exactly. It's being born and dying. And I think we need to tell teenagers, this could happen. This is what you do. What do you want to happen when you die, when you're buried? Make it part of normal culture that may take some of that fear away.
Absolutely. That's such a big topic in general, not only with and around illness.
It is like, I think for a lot of, so my parents both died recently and my dad looked after all the bills. And suddenly my mum is left thinking, I don't know where he's kept the passports, or my dad didn't know how to turn on the washing machine, and actually thinking of your parents and how would one of them cope if the other died, and where have they hidden all the secret documents for the bank statements and things like that. For us, it's just my husband know how to get into my iPhone because that's where all my data is. But those little things like that to make things easier for your loved ones when you do go.
But I also know that you sort of kept the full truth from your family. That must have been an enormous burden for you to carry on top of everything else.
It was. My husband's a surgeon and he had an idea about breast cancer, but he didn't know. So I had a 40% chance of making 10 years. And actually, I'll have made 10 years in 2 months. And I never thought I'd get here. It's great. Although I've had 2 recurrences. I found a group of doctors who'd had breast cancer and sarcoma through Twitter at the time. And being able to talk to doctors about what it's like having this inside knowledge that your family doesn't. They were my tribe. They were my therapy. And I think I needed someone separate or anonymous to my family that I could talk about it all. So I don't worry about how my family are going to feel if I shared that with them. Yeah. And I think having that distance really, really helped. But it's hard because you don't want to lie from your parents, but you don't want to tell your mum, I might not be here in 10 years because they can't cope with that. They don't need to cope with it.
Yeah.
But
did you eventually share?
They didn't need to know how bad it was. And
Okay.
when my cancer came back, they had an inkling. But I think I was wrong because I think, again, Western culture, we don't communicate. Everyone is worried that that person is going to die, but nobody's talking about it. And if we just, I had to do it with my husband because he was convinced he'd die first. And I said, look, it's come back. Can we just have that elephant in the room discussion? I
So
might die
important.
before you. Let's do our wills. Let's accept it. And then we can pretend it's never going to happen.
Yeah, that's really important. I mean, that sex life discussion, I
Yeah.
think, is very important. So for anyone who's out there who might have been, who is in a similar position, what do you advise and what happens exactly and how can you get help?
I think the first thing to do is to think about how you feel about you and your body image. And lots of breast cancer centres have classes that can help, like look good, feel better, to put your makeup on, to get in touch with yourself, to actually look at yourself in the mirror and realise your body is incredible, you're still here. Find something that you like, to touch yourself. And that could just simply be rubbing in moisturiser, to learn that it's nice to be touched and you deserve to be touched and to look after. And I would then say, a lot of the reasons women have problems with their sex life is because they have a cancer that's driven by estrogen, and we stop them getting estrogen to stop the cancer coming back, which makes you more menopausal than a normal woman. So you don't have a sex drive, and because estrogen is a natural lubricant, things get very dry and tight down there. But you can still orgasm, and I think pleasuring yourself, using vibrators to help, can make you realise it's a nice sensation to have. It's a great way to get to sleep. Yes, you can still do it.
Okay.
Though intercourse isn't the be all and end all, and there are lots of other ways of being intimate without having penetrative sex. But to do that, things I recommend, and I talk about them in my books, are lubricant. I thought lube was something that prostitutes used. You know, good girls don't need it, or you're bad if you're not wet enough, but it's crazy. Lube is great. It stops everything getting dry and tight, and you can use it on you and your partner. But a lube that doesn't have glycerin and chemicals and, everything is a chemical, glycerins and glitter and flavourings, just a plain, simple lube. And then you can get dilators that can stretch up the vaginal wall, because it's like a muscle. If it's not used, it narrows. And if you can't get your little finger inside, then anything else is going to be difficult.
Of course.
And
Yeah.
I found a great thing, if I can mention, they're called O-nuts. They are 4 silicone stacking rings that can go over a sheath or your partner. And what they do is they limit the depth of thrust. So
Okay.
you only have 1 or 2 inches going inside, so you can relax because you're not worried about it being painful. But it takes time. And you might have to put it in the diary, because your partner may be scared of initiating things because they might hurt you. But it's having all of these conversations outside of the bedroom and saying, things are going to be different now. And it's not your fault. I still find you attractive. My body just doesn't work the same.
Within all the medical care and treatments realms, do you think what can we do to support women better in these areas?
So it's really hard to talk about sex with your doctor, because most of us find it hard talking about sex with our partners.
Yeah.
I went back and I brought it up when I saw women after a year saying, I now know that the drugs you're on can cause problems with your sex life. Is that something you'd like to talk about? And I'm talking at a big cancer conference in Chicago in May, talking about sexual health after cancer. But I think women and men listening need to feel that they can go to their doctor and say, cancer treatment has affected my sex life. I need help.
Yeah.
And that doctor may not be able to help you, but lots of hospitals have psychosexual counsellors attached. There are people you can talk to, there are therapists. And we just need to encourage you to say, don't be embarrassed about wanting to have sex. It is okay. And there are things we should do as a doctor to help you. So just getting patients to go, make that appointment, say, I need help.
Yeah.
Don't be embarrassed.
Absolutely. And you also just briefly touched the topic menopause, which is
Yes.
currently a very trending topic
Yeah.
in general. But explain a little bit exactly what happens if you get cancer treatment. And I believe you can also, you cannot get hormone replacement therapy afterwards, right?
Yeah. So if you're having chemotherapy, what that does is destroy fast-growing cells.
Yeah.
And the cells in the ovaries and the testicles are fast-growing. So in women, if you are in your 20s, 30s, 40s, it will stop your ovaries working.
Mm-hmm.
And what we do with younger women is often give them a drug to switch their ovaries off so they're not damaged by chemotherapy, but it doesn't always work. So I was 40, it kind of knocked my ovaries off. So I was thrown into an instant menopause. They stopped producing estrogen. What happens then at the menopause is we make a little bit of estrogen in our fat.
Mm-hmm.
Now, if your cancer is driven by estrogen, we give you a tablet to either stop you making it or to stop breast cancer cells reacting to it. And that can halve your risk of recurrence. But it means your menopausal symptoms are worse than a woman going through the normal menopause.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
And it's sudden. It can happen in 2 or 3 weeks instead of 3 or 4 years. Literally overnight. Oh my goodness, I'm a raging hormonal angry mess and I think I've wet the bed because I'm having a night sweat. It's really, really hard. Now, there are lots and lots of things that can help for anybody going through the menopause. And the first couple are boring and they're hard work, but it is exercise. It's eating a healthy diet. It's cutting back on alcohol. They can all help, along with complementary therapies like acupuncture and massage and reflexology and even hypnotherapy. But there are now a long list of drugs that, as well as doing one thing, such as treating depression or epilepsy or pain, they can also reduce the hot sweats and the night flashes. And I'm on a couple of them to help me. We get quite touchy about HRT, giving women estrogen. There's not a lot of good data, but there are some trials that show women with hormone-sensitive breast cancer who've had HRT have an increased risk of recurrence. And if your cancer comes back, then it's not curable, which means you're going to die. Okay. And in my mind as a surgeon, if your cancer is driven by estrogen and I'm giving you a drug to stop you producing it, having HRT makes no sense because it's like putting fuel on the fire.
Yeah.
Now, it comes down to risk. What is your risk of your cancer coming back? How worried are you and how bad are your symptoms? And if women want to take it, they can do, but they need to know that it may bring their breast cancer back. So it should be the last resort when you've tried everything else.
Okay. Let's talk diet. How has your diet changed and what can everyone do?
This is the most viral search for topic online. Yeah. There are 10,000 cancer diet books on Amazon.
I know, it's really, it's really confusing, I guess.
It is.
You go through...
I never talked about diet with my patients because I just assumed everyone knows you eat the same. And those guidelines are on the World Cancer Research Federation website. And it's basically at every meal, half a plate of fruit and veg, quarter of a plate of protein with a high grain fiber carbohydrate source and a bit of fat. There's nothing fancy. That's it. When I was going through chemo, I lost my sense of taste. My tongue was bleeding. I had ulcers. Food, you live off bland food. Everything tastes horrible, metallic or chalky. And I was imagining, I'm going to be a green goddess and juice and be full of nutrients. All I wanted to do was eat cake and chocolate because my taste buds had come back and it tasted nice again. Seriously, it's like, give me the cake. I eat the same diet that I always did. And I talk about this a lot in the book. I think it's 80-20. The influencers you see online who are chopping their own vegetables in their meals and making their own bread and their ketchup, they have money, they have time and money and energy and people to help them do this. It's not realistic. A lot of us are women with busy lives and children looking after husbands. You cannot freshly cook meals 3 times a day, every day. You will be eating some ultra-processed foods. You have to be realistic. And it's expensive to cook your own food. So I kind of think the 80-20 rule, if 80% of your weekly diet is basically good, healthy food, and that can be packaged or takeout if needed, 20% is for fun. You go out for a meal with the girls, you have a drink, you have cake, you can have that. And then I say there's 1% of feck it food. That's how the Irish swear, where you just know, my hormones are raging, I need to eat a whole pack of chocolate cookies because that's just what I need in this moment and that's fine.
Just brain food, mental food.
Yeah, exactly. It's basically, there's a bit of fruit and veg on every meal and it's a good protein source. It's fine. The actual impact of, they say processed meat can increase the risk of bowel cancer. It's a very, very small increase in risk, but you need to be eating 5 rashers of bacon 3 times a day for 5 years to see that increase.
Yeah,
so a little bit of what you fancy every once in a while is fine. You don't need to spend money on expensive diets and courses and supplements, but they're easy and they're sexy. And you think you're doing a good job by swallowing a load of pills, which you can actually get from your diet.
That is so good. What about alcohol?
Good one. So I drank like a fish at medical school.
Okay.
I drank a lot. I can't remember half of it. It was what we did. It was our culture, the way of coping with everything. You've seen the pit is on the States at the minute. Medical school was like that. Yeah. And I drank a lot. And we know that alcohol increases your risk of cancer. The more you drink, the more it increases your risk. That's a fact. It's a carcinogen. It drives chronic inflammation. And also alcohol can be converted into estrogen. So it drives your hormones. But it's not the only reason. If you drink a lot and you have breast cancer, alcohol is not the only reason. Ideally, they say we shouldn't drink more than 7 units a week. And it doesn't matter if that's a bottle of vodka at the weekend or you space it out. It's the amount you drink in a week. After cancer, there's not a lot of research. We kind of recommend no more than 5 units a week. And a unit is smaller than you think. It's 1 shot or about 100 mils of wine. We know it directly causes cancer and it can make the hot flushes and the night sweats worse, but it's a lot of people's social lives and it's boring drinking Diet Coke all the while. So
Absolutely.
a glass or two once a week is fine, but try to cut it down.
I mean, the numbers are pretty shocking. If you look into the future numbers or those estimations that you can read, like in the UK, it's every second person is estimated to have cancer, and then worldwide it's 1 in 5.
Yeah.
What's happening? Why are these numbers so high?
So I think there's 2 reasons. Cancer by itself is growing, and I think partly that's we are an aging population. We are keeping people alive until they're 80, 90, 100. And the longer you live, the more likely you are to get cancer because your cells don't repair them as well. So we are suddenly dealing with a lot of people with cancer very late in life. Mm-hmm. We also know the rate is increasing in people under the age of 50, and we don't know why. But there've been research that's shown that if globally everybody was a healthy weight for their size, didn't drink, didn't smoke, wore sunscreen, ate a healthy diet, we would prevent 4 in every 10 cancers.
That's a lot.
There's a lot of those. Obesity can cause 13 cancers. Alcohol can cause 7 cancers. Getting skin cancer can cause melanoma. So by introducing those healthy lifestyle behaviors at a young age, we can stop 4 out of every 10 cancers. But it's a boring message to get across. It's hard work. No one wants to hear it. But I think that's what needs to change. There may be something to do with our microbiome. You know, people are eating unhealthy diets. They're juicing and not getting the fiber. The microplastics in the environment might have something to do with that, but there's no evidence at the moment. So you don't need to rid your home of every single chemical. There's a lot of fear mongering and scaring, and sugar causes this and mobile phones. We know what causes cancer, but it's those healthy lifestyle behaviors. And I think when I was a kid, I was outside running around playing at the weekend. Now I'm on Netflix or I'm typing away. We're not. We lead unhealthier lives because everything is instant and accessible. And I think it's looking at how much time we spend sat on our ass on the sofa.
Yeah. I mean, you're an expert in this field, but if you open, Instagram or any one of the social medias these days, there is so much conflicting advice, from you mentioned the super diets and this and that. How do you help, manage that flood of information and especially also misinformation? And what could people do to get the real information that's solid?
It's really hard. I think one of the problems is the more followers someone has, the more truthful you think they are. If a guy's got 2 million followers, they must be telling the truth. And we have attention spans of 2-year-olds. So you see a 6-second clip and think it's true. You shouldn't get your medical information off the internet, as incredible as it sounds. And I've got a big chapter in my book telling people things to look out for. But firstly, before you spend your money, double check it on another website, like the American Cancer Society or CRUK, ask your doctor. There are 3 or other different sources saying this is true. When someone says this cures every cancer, there are over 200 different cancers. There are 13 different types of breast cancer with up to 40 different varieties. There's not one disease that cures all. The big wellness industry is worth 4 times what big pharma is. Doctors aren't sitting on a secret to stop curing cancer. I never want to see a cancer patient again, but you can get in this conspiracy and then the algorithm shows you what you want to see. So suddenly you're going down a soursop, black salve route, like the apple cider vinegar thing. I think it's just take a step back and look, where is the evidence? Is this person a doctor? And this is another thing, because you can get doctors of chiropody and doctors of podiatry, but they just call themselves doctors. So you think they're a doctor like me, they're an oncologist. And it's just thinking, because you only have one body. But I know when you're diagnosed with cancer, you're terrified. You want hope, you want certainty, you want someone to say, I can cure you. And if a clinic in Mexico is promising for 60 grand, they can cure you, you may think, well, I'm going to do it, because a doctor can't promise a cure. And we know that people who go down alternative routes are at least twice as likely to die. 6 times as likely with breast cancer, and they are taking money off vulnerable, frightened cancer patients because you believe that it will help you. And it's really hard when you're vulnerable. But I think it's just stop, pause, like the impulse shopping, put it in the trolley, but then sit and wait online and go back. Do you really want it tomorrow? Double check it. Just see, is this really true? Is it really worth it? And one of the problems is testimonials are the most powerful source of evidence at the moment. They're persuasive. If a celebrity says, hey, I use this face cream and it's great, A, they're photoshopped and touched up to look great, and they may never use it. They're just given £50,000 to promote it. You can't believe anything anyone says online, but they're so persuasive. And doctors aren't saying, hey, chemo's great. Everyone should have chemo.
Yeah. What about the alternative medicines? Are there any good, or are they just maximum complementary? What could you say about that?
So I think complementary medicines are great, and they are treatments that you have alongside mainstream medicine to help you cope with the side effects. Things like massage and acupuncture and hypnotherapy, all those kind of things, they are proven to help you cope with the side effects. Alternative treatments, which is the same as functional and a lot of integrative and naturopathic treatments, all fall under the same thing. So functional medicine, Dr. Mark Hyman is huge in the States. That branch of medicine was invented in 1991 by a businessman who wanted to sell supplements. Mm-hmm. They tell us that we get cancer because we had toxic thoughts or we didn't detox enough. It's our fault. We looked after this. It's the blame and shame. There is no evidence to prove that they work. There are no trials. They don't have to collect the data. They don't look after you. They are selling you a lifestyle that they believe in, and they are giving you 20, 30 treatments at the same time. Most people feel better simply because they've had a litre of fluid in a drip. Most high-dose supplements just end up in the toilet, and they can interact and stop your cancer treatment working.
Wow. Is there, talking about research, is there any research, any new findings on the horizon that make you hopeful? Any new cures or new paths?
There are. So we're developing vaccines for lung cancer, bowel cancer, and for one brand of breast cancer, which are looking at specific mutations. Immunotherapy is really, really taking off, and personalized medicine. So, with breast cancer, there are several mutations. We can develop drugs to hit those mutations. And people with metastatic cancer are now living for 10, 15, 20 years instead of 2 or 3. So I think there's been 20 new drugs in the last 8 years alone, just for breast cancer. And I think there will come a time when it is a chronic disease, which is why we need more money for research. But most people are cured.
That is very hopeful. What do you wish the doctors in their medical school would be taught on top of what they're already learning? What is really necessary?
I think a lot of it's due to communication. And I try and share stories so they can hear what it's like when you're given bad news and the words that you say and how they can affect people. And I think it's really listening to what it's like to go through chemotherapy. So when you're telling someone it's this, this, and this, actually it's not just feeling a bit tired. It's not being able to lift your head off the sofa for a week and actually understanding what we're going through. You don't get a lot of time to listen to patients in medical school because you're just trying to learn 50 million textbooks. Mm-hmm. But I think listening to patients at conferences, reading the blogs, reading what we share online, and learning to tell us what we want to know, not what you think we need to know.
Yeah.
Don't tell me the side effects, tell me how to cope with them.
Absolutely. If you could give advice to your younger self, what would it be?
Oh, gosh. See, I thought I'd be married at the age of 27 as Wales' first female trauma surgeon dealing with gunshots.
Oh, my God. Now, thankfully, you're still here, and it's so lovely to have you.
I'd say life isn't going to turn out the way you think, but that's okay. Trust your gut and follow your heart.
That's wonderful. Is there any special ritual you do to manage your day every day a little better?
Well, I have a very hungry Cocker Spaniel who's looking at me now. So the Cocker Spaniel gets a tummy tickle in the morning and then he gets to walk. And I love open water swimming. I love getting in the local river or lake and just feeling that freezing cold brrr, and then that gets my energy going all day.
It's been so inspirational to talk to you. You are really a light out there. And thank you so much for taking your time. And I wish you all the best.
Yeah, well, thanks for having me. It's been brilliant.
Dr. Liza Riordan reminds us that the hardest chapters in life can also become the most powerful catalysts for change. Her work has helped thousands of people feel seen, heard, and better prepared for the journey through and beyond cancer. If today's conversation resonated with you, I encourage you to check out Liz's book, The Cancer Roadmap, her podcast, Don't Ignore the Elephant, and her brilliant online resources. We've linked everything in the show notes. And as always, thank you so much for listening to How Do We Manage? If this episode moved you, please share it with someone who might need to hear it today. Until next time, take care of yourselves and each other.